Those of you who missed the pregame show, missed my long conversation about falling asleep on a Zoom and cinnamon licorice, and you're the poorer for it. Thank you for being here on the Two-Way platform. This is Two-Way Tonight. My name is Mark Halperin, and I will be your guide through an hour of the latest news, information, color commentary, and two great guests, Alex Castellanos, a longtime Republican strategist, and Hans Nichols, who covers Capitol Hill for Axios. And they're both very nice men, very funny men, very learned men, very experienced men in the ways and byways of the American political and media scene. So they'll be here, and we'll run through the news. And the House is in the process of getting ready to open a government back up, or at least pass the legislation already passed by the Senate, sent it to the President of the United States. If you've ever seen Schoolhouse Rock, you know what that means. The bill will become a law. So we'll talk about that, and Hans will be all over that. And then for those of you who have smartphones that get news headlines, you know that there's a bit of news regarding the matter of Jeffrey Epstein and the President of the United States, and a lot of back and forth about some emails that in which Jeffrey Epstein was opining and sharing information about the president, and the White House had a lot to say about that. We've got an event, Maha event. The President of the United States is number 2. J.D. Vance and RFKJ did Maha event today. We've got some interesting sound from the two of them. Caroline Leavitt addressed the president's mystery MRI from a few weeks ago, and you won't believe what she said. That's a fake tease. She didn't really say much of anything, but we'll show you what she said. And this is what we call a late-breaking development. Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff, who was his chief of staff like last year, has been arrested by the FBI in a public corruption probe. Don't like to see that for anybody, but we'll see where that heads and whether that has any implications for the SS Newsom, which has been chugging along quite aggressively. So I will, in a moment, tell you about bringing our guests, and we'll run through some sound bites. And if you're here on the platform and you want to be in the conversation, what a wonderful opportunity to talk to Hans Nichols and Alex Castellanos. Please raise your hand if you're here on the platform. If, however, you're watching on X or on YouTube, don't raise your hand. And don't put any smack in the chat. Everything we say here is meant to reflect the philosophy of peace, love, and understanding, a presumption of grace extended to all. And we'd like the chat to be consistent with that. So no smack in there. Recipes, welcome. Pointers, sports tips, betting tips, anything you want that's not smack is all good. But I want to tell you first about a big event tomorrow night. So let's say you got holiday shopping to do, and you think, well, it's not even Thanksgiving yet. Why would I want to buy my Christmas holiday presents now? Well, because you want to get it out of the way. And let's say you got any of the following categories: customers, who you buy annual gifts for; clients, a lot of employees, or maybe you're in the King family and you got a lot of members of your family, and you want to just say, I want to get everybody something nice. Imagine getting them this nice quarter zip that I'm wearing from our friends at Fairway and Green. And imagine all you had to do was get on a web page or on a phone call with somebody and say, like, I want 10 of those and 7 of those, extra large, large, small. Some say two-way, some not. Boom, boom, boom. And then beautifully made, very comfortable apparel shows up. And even imagine that instead of saying two-way here, it says your company logo here. Not literally your company logo here, because that would be, no one would want that. But let's say you got a company logo. Put it right there, and give it away to your customers, clients, employees. Here's what's going to happen tomorrow night. 2 tonight, 6 o'clock Eastern time. It ends at 7, and then a very special evening. An evening with our friends at Fairway and Green. Will follow immediately after. Jack Lessing, president of Summer Golf Brands, which is the parent company of Fairway and Green, and Billy Draddy, who's the creative director of the company, but also the founder of B. Draddy. They make my boxers, by the way, and they're the best boxers literally I've ever owned. I recommend those to you. They'll join me, and we'll show you some stuff, and then you'll have an opportunity. Again, just get it done. You got 40 presents to buy, just get it done tomorrow night. We're going to help you do that. And to entice you to come, we're going to give away some stuff. Live giveaway, 3 lucky attendees. You got to be there live. Will be eligible to get gift cards. 3 $250 gift cards just for showing up. So come tomorrow night to the 2 tonight. Come at 6 or come at 6:59 if you want. 7 to 7:30, we're just going to be explaining to you how you can get all your holiday shopping done. One fell swoop. And you've heard me talk about this before. You want to be popular with your customers, clients, or employees, or large family, buy them this stuff. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Even my son, who, my son's a typical kid, give him clothes for holidays, he'd be like, not this. We got him some of these. Beautiful. Loves them. Puts them on. He's like got a magical cloak. So I'll see you tomorrow night. Join us for that. All right. One more note from a sponsor, and then we're going to get right into the news with Alex and with Hans. And this is our friends at chefiq.com. It's another seasonal thing. You got your turkey to make coming up pretty soon. You don't want to burn it. You don't want to undercook it. And you don't want to be constantly watching the Cowboys lose or your guests to go check on it. So go to chefiq.com, use the promo code two-way for 30% off for Chef IQ Sense. It's a wireless cooking thermometer. You just on your smartphone. Instead of playing Wordle, you're watching your turkey cook, and it's going to tell you when it's done. The USDA says it's got to be 165 degrees Fahrenheit to be safe. You can't see 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's impossible. But not even the $6 million man or Jamie Summers could do that. But you can monitor it with the Chef IQ Chef IQ Sense wireless cooking thermometer. It'll tell you exactly when to take it out, how long to let it sit, etc. It's the ultimate gift for the cook in your life, the chef in your life. It works on everything, not just turkey. Go to chefiq.com, promo code two-way for 30% off. Thank you for your attention to that matter. And don't spill gravy on any of the Fairway and Green stuff. That's a pro tip for you. All right, let's get to the news. And luckily, we have two newsy guys with us. First, it's Hans Nichols. Hans, welcome in. Unmute. There it is.
Thanks for having me. Do Alex and I get two-way branded? We want vests, though. Alex and I are vest guys.
We got vests.
We're vest pros.
You're trim, but you're very tall. So I'm thinking extra large for you.
That's great. Yeah. And no need to FedEx it, but it'd be a nice touch.
Understand. And yeah. Alex is Cuban, so he's got broad shoulders. XL, Alex, or is it possible you wear a large? I doubt it. XL?
In a wife beater, it would be an XL.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. I'll be buying tomorrow night, and then I'll add you guys to the list. Gentlemen, welcome in. Couldn't be happier to have you here. Grateful to you for making time. Let's start with the shutdown, just because that's real news. Hans, we're on a glide path to passage, right?
Surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah. How many Democrats will vote yes? Approx.
Half a dozen.
Half a dozen. More than enough to offset a few expected defections.
That's we're counting one, maybe two defections right now.
Yeah,
so in this Congress, that's a landslide. I mean, that's a big margin.
So if you took John Boehner and Paul Ryan and what's his name from California?
Kevin McCarthy.
These are three gentlemen who were on our radar for years, in some cases decades, before they became speaker. And they were all savvy enough to climb the greasy pole and become speaker. And all of them were swallowed up by the MAGA machine. All of them were forced from the job because it was just impossible to square the circle between the moderates and the MAGA. And here's this guy, Mike Johnson, who, Alex, had you heard of Mike Johnson 3 years ago? You have.
He was Bobby Jindal's driver.
Was he really Bobby Jindal's driver? Was he? Okay. All right. So you had, but you hadn't thought of him as a speaker when he was driving for Bobby.
No.
Bobby Jindal was a governor of Louisiana, former congressman, Alex's client. I think Alex may have introduced me to him. Lovely guy, and apparently had a great driver. Hans, had you heard of Mike Johnson 3 years ago?
I had not.
Okay, and I hadn't either. And I will tell you, Rick Santorum, former congressman and senator from Pennsylvania, told me long ago, watch Mike Johnson. Watch Mike Johnson. I was like, whatever, Mike Johnson, like, what could be more generic? How is it, Hans, that this guy, who you and I, who cover things closely, hadn't heard of, turns out to be a pretty effective speaker, and in some ways, at least so far, more effective than these other more well-known Pauls? What are the tricks of the trade Mike Johnson is deploying to be so successful?
Well, there are two options here. One, Mike Johnson is basically a stealth fighter, right? He's the B2 of his class, and none of our radars picked him up. The more likely option, and I'll give you another two. Our radars are broken, right? As political reporters, he just wasn't on our radar. That happens to a lot of us a lot of times. Like, was Donald Trump really on anyone's firm political radar as the Republican nominee in 2014? 2014?
I'll show you the transcript of my interview with him in 2011, dude.
Okay. Well, your radar's better. Clearly, I need
Just in this
to go
case,
the
but
radar.
not on Mike, but not on Mike
Yeah.
Johnson. It wasn't.
And the other probability, and I don't want this to come across negative, because like if Johnson wins tonight, it's his fifth, somewhat by my count, improbable win, right?
Yeah,
He had
yeah,
a hat trick earlier in the year. Getting a CR, I mean, a continuing resolution through the House of Representatives is always difficult. It looks like tonight's gonna be drama free. Like, I shouldn't front
yeah.
run it that much, but like, I mean, how late is this vote going to be held open? We're not expecting to be held open that long. Is Donald Trump
And
going
if this were if this were Ryan or Boehner or McCarthy, we'd all be talking about like horse trading and holdouts and press conferences. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he's learned from his predecessors.
Yeah,
And Johnson has held President Trump tighter than most. But then it's not even close. And then sort of the other sort of slight hedge on this is it's still early, right? He hasn't been speaker that long.
yeah.
And so we'll see. And so there are other things that can, I mean, let alone the election in November, he has other challenges ahead of him. But like, has he been underestimated? Absolutely. Has he passed consequential legislation or just keeping the lights on legislation with historically low margins? Yes. Did Washington expect him to do that? No. So yeah, he's surprised on the upside. I
Yeah.
suppose it helps to be underestimated sometimes.
Yeah, Alex, is he a genius? I mean, like what are the traits that he's using to understand human nature? Like, what is it?
He has a genius gift, and that is to be underestimated.
Yeah,
They say you can't beat somebody with nobody. Sometimes in a polarized environment, you can only beat somebody with a nobody.
Hmm.
And it's non-threatening. If he were a fierce advocate for one side or the other, if he were polarized, then he wouldn't be the Gerald Ford-like figure that he is. No matter where you are in the splits in the Republican Party, he's kind of okay. And anybody else you'd pick, well, he'd be one of their guys. So I think that's his great gift, and I think it gives him longevity. I think he
yeah,
could be around for a
yeah,
long time.
yeah,
Who else is there that wouldn't polarize?
yeah. And his number two and his number three both wanted to be speaker and were higher up the poll, and both were blocked, and they're now his deputies. Hans, has anybody written a great piece about Mike Johnson explaining all this? Has anybody written that?
You apparently aren't reading Smart Brevity every night. I mean, must you wound me?
No, I
Must
mean
you?
I literally read you every night. But I'm talking about
Yeah,
like
it's a fair point.
I'm talking about a
Where's the New
5,000.
Yorker?
Yeah, the New
Yeah,
Yorker piece.
let's just sign it right now.
Because if he
Dexter
were,
Filkins,
yeah, Dexter
or
Filkins.
George Packard. Remember when George Packard did the
Yeah,
Merkel
I
profile? It was
do.
awesome.
I do. It was amazing. He's
yeah,
incredible.
look,
If he were a Democrat and having this record of accomplishment with a caucus, in this case conference, so historically unwieldy, he'd be getting these long pieces, and he deserves it.
more importantly, reporters would be getting book deals to write books
Yeah,
on it.
they would be. They would be. And you said, as you said, it's early, but I find it staggering how successful he is. Anyway, so the vote's happening tonight at some point, and as Hans suggested, and
7:15.
7:15. So shortly after we finish up here. Here's the speaker himself previewing the night's events. Number 2, please.
Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to come out and say that we believe the long national nightmare will be over tonight. It was completely and utterly foolish and pointless in the end, as we said all along. I just want to apologize to any Americans who are out there who still have flight cancellations or delays today. I want to apologize to the many American families who were made to go hungry over the last several weeks, our troops and other federal employees who are wondering where their next paycheck would come from. All of that's on the Democrats. Just never forget, they voted 15 times between the House and the Senate to close your government. And the Republicans tried every single day of the shutdown to open it, and we voted 15 times to do that. They have a lot to answer for, and I just want to say that we're very optimistic about the vote tally tonight. We think this is going to happen, and we're sorry that it took this long. So Republicans are going to deliver for the people. We're ready to get back to our legislative agenda. We have a very aggressive calendar for the remainder of this year. There'll be some long days and nights here, some long working weeks, but we will get this thing back on track. So thank you all. Stay tuned for more tonight.
Mr. Speaker, do you have any reaction to the email from House?
A crawfish popsicle would melt in that man's mouth. All right. Before we move on to Epstein, Hans, I'm gonna raise a topic, and if you have an interesting answer, I'd like you to give it. But I don't understand this story. And if you say it's not that interesting, people wouldn't really care. Inside baseball, just kick it back to me, and we'll move on. The Senate bill, the CR, had a provision in it allowing senators to sue the government if their if their privacy was violated, and the speaker saying they're going to pass the Senate bill, but then they're going to do a separate piece of legislation to try to undo it. And then Lindsey Graham is saying he plans to sue the government over this. Why does the House care so much if senators can sue?
I thought they were
they just didn't have a say in it. If that was for me, I mean, this is a fascinating provision, and it's perplexing because anytime you ask anyone that should know anything about this in either in the House or the Senate, they throw up their hands. No one can tell me how it got put in. No one can tell me why the number. I mean, why is it 500,000? Why not just a clean million? Why not 100,000?
That's how much you can get is the damages.
It's 500,000, yeah. And so to me, like the House, like I don't know why would the Senate then vote this performative, approve this performative bill that the House is going to do. So it looks like this will stay law, but you know, I don't hold me that. And for those 9 senators that have their phone records, it's just an easy way for them to generate publicity, get a bunch of cable news hits, and at the end of the day, they get $500,000, and that goes to their personal account. So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is weird and interesting. All right, let's talk about healthcare briefly. Then we'll talk about Epstein. So the Democrats say, well, now healthcare is front and center, and they're going to have a vote in the Senate on the subsidies. And you guys probably didn't watch last night when I asked Hogan Gidley 30 times why the president didn't have a healthcare plan. Alex, what is your party's position on making healthcare more affordable and more available? What's the Republican position on that?
Well, the Republicans are in a tough spot. By the way, I'm hearing some.
Yeah, I'm hearing it too. I don't know where that's coming from.
I want to be sure it wasn't me.
Yeah.
The Republicans are in a tough spot on healthcare because our plan, of course, is not to have a government-run plan. And the public debate is, can you
hold on? Let's try to figure out where that's coming from.
I think the question is who's going to be standing on that line and beyond it to provide security.
Sounds like Marco Rubio to me. Senator Rubio, Secretary Rubio, are you here? I don't know. Somebody turn that off. Alex, please pick up. Apologies.
Let me see if I have Rubio talking somewhere, because I was listening.
That could be you.
Can you
basic everyday security?
Can you go to Hans just 1 second and let me see if it's me?
I'll mute you. Oh yeah, it's Alex. Oh, it's Alex. That's you, Dad. That's you, Lovey. You got Rubio. Well, Hans, Alex toggles. What's the Republican plan, Hans, on healthcare? What are they?
We have a problem because
give money directly to consumers.
What is your government-run healthcare plan that competes with the Democrats' government-run healthcare plan? And of course, we don't believe in government-run healthcare plans. So what is the Republican healthcare plan? It's an open healthcare system where you and your doctor get to choose the best healthcare for you, as opposed to a healthcare plan run by the government that's top-down, political, and artificial decision-making about how much healthcare you should get, and how much you're allowed, and what kind, and when you can get it. So a capitalist healthcare system, you wouldn't sell it that way, but you say we want an open healthcare system. That's the only thing that reduces prices. We'd say that the best way to reduce healthcare costs is to open the healthcare system up and create more cures rather than ration.
Alex, I'm going to mute you. Go through all your tabs and find the one that's playing YouTube.
I'm going to find the one that.
Okay. Yeah. Hans, you mentioned the idea that Bill Cassidy and the president's talked about, not give money to health insurance companies, give it to consumers. I've sort of heard of that idea, but it seems like they're writing this on the back of a Dixie Riddle cup. They're not really having hearings or figuring it out. So is it something they're going to propose for real?
We don't know. I mean, Cassidy's been working on this for some time. I don't know if his committee has had any hearings on it. I don't know. It seems like health savings accounts from like the Bush era. So
yeah,
it doesn't. I mean, again, that could be a little too glib on my part. The sort of the scope of the challenge with healthcare is not a 7-week or 9-week runway, right? What we're talking about here is a short-term fix. The only way to make it bipartisan is you have the short-term fix for 1 year, and then you put some income caps on a 2-year, and that's the best outcome. And you do something on fraud, and you do something on the sort of zero premium health plans. And it's none other than Jeanne Shaheen, a Democrat who's kind of leading these talks, from New Hampshire that was really central to ending the shutdown. This is her plan. So she's meeting Republicans halfway. That's on the Senate side. You can squint and think maybe you get to 60 there, maybe, right? But the question is, how do you get it through the House? And then we're back to Mike Johnson land.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting 60 unless there was a really serious, long conversation.
Or Trump gets or Trump's pollsters get to him, but that was kind of the conversations 3 months ago, right? That this is going to be a big problem. Anzalone was out there, big problem. It's Republican voters that are going to get slammed. The president seems to have moved off that, and he no longer feels like this is going to be apparently like this is going to be a huge problem.
Yeah, the problem with 60 to me, for this, but almost anything, is if Trump's for it in any aggressive way, it's very hard to get any Democrat to be for it. And you'd have to give enough, you'd put a premium on that. It's why Barack Obama didn't endorse Simpson Bowles, because he said, if I endorse Simpson Bowles right when it's announced, it'll be the Obama plan. And then no Republican's going to possibly support it. So I wonder about that. All right, let's talk about the Epstein thing. Early this morning, the House Investigative Committee got a bunch of documents. And the Democrats get them and the Republicans get them, a huge tranche of Epstein emails. And the Democrats decide to put some out. This makes me nuts when either party treats this stuff so politically. Number 4, right before or right during the morning meeting, they came out. New York Times got them first, I believe. Here's the headline from the Washington Post. House Democrats release Epstein emails that mention Trump. Very neutral headline, just mention Trump, factually true. One email said President Trump had, quote, spent hours at the home of the disgraced financier with a sex trafficking victim. The White House called the release of the emails slander. So here's what the president said, number 5. He says the Democrats are bringing this up, trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again. Still don't know what he means by the hoax, but because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country, while at the same time putting many at risk. Are we still talking about Epstein? No, not yet. And they should pay a fair price. There should be no defections to Epstein on anything else. Deflections, sorry. And any Republican involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. That seems to be a reference to the discharge petition. The new Congressman Grijalva was sworn in, and she signed the discharge petition. And now, within about 10 days, the discharge petitions are funny beasts. They have their own cadence here, but within about 10 days, there could be a vote in the House calling for a release of more information. Here is Caroline Levitt at her briefing, number 7, responding to the emails that suggest that Epstein had Trump on his mind when he was thinking about all of this.
Emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
Mike Johnson has downplayed this. Hans, are any Republicans you've talked to concerned about this?
Privately, yeah. Privately, it's going to be a challenge for Johnson if, say, a half a dozen to, just say 20 to 30 Republican lawmakers in tough districts have to vote for this. So that's where the conversation is now.
Right.
But that's more of a sort of a mathematical political question than like the big meta one that I think you're asking, which Alex can answer.
So here's something that's reported to have happened today. And Hans, if you know this didn't happen, please say. The White House had Congresswoman Boebert, one of 3 Republican women whose names are on the discharge petition, who are required to be on there in order to force the speaker to give up control of the floor and allow them to vote on this. They had her over to the White House in the Situation Room. briefing her on their view of the Epstein documents and urging her to take her name off the discharge petition. That seems extraordinary to me, and it's very hard for me to push back on people who say, "Well, Mark, doesn't this mean absolutely the president has something to hide? Why are they fighting this so hard otherwise?" Alex, Boebert in the Situation Room with the Epstein file, you've never had that include. That doesn't come up a lot. Why would you say they do? Why would they be doing that unless they had something they had to hide?
Why would an innocent person defend themselves? Gee, I don't know. Maybe because they're not guilty. You can argue it.
Well,
just
but the discharge petition doesn't say send Donald Trump to prison. It just says release the files.
Well, the political aspect of it, though, look, if this had occurred 5 or 6 months ago when Republicans still held the gains made in the election, women that Trump picked up in the election, I guess I shouldn't use that language, women that Trump picked up, but that female vote Trump gained during the election, black voters, young voters. That tide has receded now. We're back to a polarized environment where you hate Trump or you love Trump. And in that environment, is this going to have any impact at all, regardless of what Boebert does? No, it's not going to have any effect.
Hans, why are they have her in the Situation Room briefing her to deter her to take her name off it? Like, what's that about?
Let me answer your first question. I haven't been able to confirm that, but I haven't gotten real firm pushback. There's also an attempt by the White House to reach out, or the president, to Nancy Mace to get her name. She's one of the others off. We haven't confirmed that. I don't have an answer for you. Like, they obviously don't want this out, right? I mean, we've seen the kind of headlines that it's generated. And the headlines, you ran through the one sort of kind of giving the Post, I think, credit. I could be wrong, but you're kind of giving them credit for being neutral. I suspect that most of the headlines and a lot of the conversations are not going to give, there won't be a whole presumption of grace, to use your term, right? So, and these are just negative headlines. Like, this isn't like, I don't know, I kind of take Alex's point here. Like, if any day the Epstein stuff and Trump are mentioned in the same sentence, that's a bad day for him. And that's just kind of the way it is. So
and in 2016, it was the beginning of a 4-year period where the country and the Trump administration got very little done because every day there was an indictment, a scandal, or something in the media. Why wouldn't you try to tamp this down? Trump seems to believe he's got 2 years, and maybe only 2 years, to fix the country. So for the next year, if he can keep the plate clean of issues like this and work on, foreign policy gains, getting the economy going, which is what he most needs to do for the midterms, then try to suppress this dialogue and put the spotlight back on the work that needs to be done.
Okay. 2 more topics and then to your question. So if you're here on the platform, you want to get in on the conversation, please raise your hand. Either of you ever had an MRI?
Yes.
Yeah, you both have. And I have too. Typically, you don't need to speak about your own case if you want to, but typically what causes a doctor to order up an MRI?
30-inch vert in my case, just too much hops and coming down on my knee. But Alex is probably a 35-inch vert.
Cuff dunking.
Yeah. I know no other kind.
So the president got an MRI a few weeks ago, and everybody's like, what's up with that? And they were like, the president's like, ask my doctor. And of course, the doctor's not available. So today, Caroline got asked at the briefing, why did the president, and in this odd mid-year physical, second physical in less than a year, why did the president get an MRI? And here's what Caroline Levitt said. Number 15, please.
As stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. The full results were reviewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agreed that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health.
So that suggests that the MRI came back negative, meaning positive, as we like to say, but doesn't really explain why he had it. Are either of you satisfied or dissatisfied by that answer if the goal is to understand the physical health of the president?
No.
No?
It comes back normal, but they could I don't know. I'm always for more information. I'll just you just release it and have independent radiologists review it. But I don't know. We went through this with Biden, and we kind of see I don't think anyone in the greater DC area or the greater country wishes that the Biden White House had constricted more information about the president's health than disclosed it. So I'm always on the side of disclosure. But Alex, tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I think post-Biden people do want more information, but
Yeah.
Trump has a little protective layer here, and that is he is so active. He is
Yeah.
soup. He is traveling the world. He is back and forth. He's at every event. He's climbing Mount Kilimanjaro tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're not going to worry too much about an MRI today.
I would give a Nobel Prize in anything to somebody who invented an MRI machine that wasn't so loud.
Oh,
I don't know why they have to be so loud.
they put the headphones on you and you get to
Yeah,
listen to music.
still so loud. Okay, RFK hosted a Maha event today. And one of the fascinating things as you think about J.D. Vance potentially being the Republican presidential nominee is how does he keep the MAGA coalition together? Because although President Trump would tell you he won in a landslide, he didn't win by that much. And so how much of the Trump vote could Vance keep in a general election? And maybe he can appeal to other people. And we all know the upside of Maha is very high. In other words, if you got people who care about health, particularly parents, particularly moms, you could get a lot of votes that are non-voters or voters who swing, or even Democrats if you're a Republican. So I'm very interested in J.D. Vance's facility with the Maha because he's a suburban dad and his wife's very into Maha. So here's a little bit of J.D. Vance with RFKJ today. Which one should we play here? Let's play number 12 first, please.
Talk about like populism, and you want to talk about people being pissed off. Well, yeah, people are pissed off when they don't have good jobs, and people are pissed off when things disappear and move overseas, and people are pissed off when they feel like, other countries are being prioritized over the United States of America, and all of that is part of the populist resentment of the past 20 or 30 years in American politics. You know what really pisses people off? When they realize that their loved ones are dying much sooner than everybody else. And that is a big part of the story of what's going on in Appalachia and why I think so many people in Appalachia feel left behind. I mean, my story, obviously, it's been, like you said, I'm like the golden boy. Things have just worked out for me in this really incredible way. I feel so lucky and so grateful for it. But I also feel a certain sense of guilt because there are a lot of people who grew up in families like mine who haven't had an easy life and who haven't had all this economic opportunity and who haven't had, a person that they've fallen in love with and they've been able to sort of build a stable, nice family like me and Usha have been able to build. And that gives me a sense of purpose because I want those people to have the same opportunities that I've had. But it also gives me a great sense of anger because we never should have gotten to the point that we are today. And the reason that we have is because of failed leadership, and it's failed leadership over generations. And by the way, you talk about Appalachia, you were talking about people who, though they don't have much, would take the shirt off their back and give it to a complete stranger because that's what you do. If you go back to America's biggest wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, which are the counties that filled their draft quotas with volunteers instead of with draftees? It's very often the parts in deep Appalachia where you've got grinding poverty, but you've also got this incredible love of country. So if any place in this country deserves not to be left behind, it's Appalachia. But on the public health stuff in particular, the numbers don't look good. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a big supporter of what you're doing, because these are people who deserve to live better, healthier lives, but they really have been left behind by this country's leadership.
I want to play one more soundbite from this event in a minute. But Alex, just to ask you, we'll talk about the substance of Maha. If he were your client, because you've had many clients and one of the amongst the things you've done for them is help them with their public presentation. Is there anything about that style, tone, word choice, emphasis? Is there anything about that you would tweak?
Not much. I thought that was pretty good. Look,
Yeah, I thought
you're
so too.
president of the United States and the VP, the danger is you become an insider, right? You become responsible for the economy, for foreign policy, for people's pain. And like Bill Clinton, do you feel their pain? The vice president there just did. And there are young men out there in Appalachia and in small towns, rural places around America who've seen, they've got worthless high school diplomas or college debt and jobs going overseas. Mass immigration is depressing wages. And then there's this explosion of drugs and fentanyl in their communities, and young moms are worried about what their big food and big health are feeding their kids. Who's standing up for them, fighting for them? Well, this guy just did. And that's the outsider Trump message that wins elections.
Yeah. And just no mention of continuing resolutions or motions to commit, just
Oh.
total normal guy. All right, Hans, I want you to react to this. One of the things about Maha, and Secretary Kennedy takes more heat on this than almost anybody, probably than anybody, is people say, well, they're not following the science. It's all mumbo jumbo, all conspiracy theories. Here's this is number 14. This is the vice president addressing that notion of something's not supported by science.
Yes. Out of that, or you get destroyed.
That's right.
And now we're working for a president who just takes a bulldozer to Overton windows and does that, like, shocks us every day, and then we go, okay, well.
That's exactly right. That is a good summary of Donald J. Trump, is that he takes a bulldozer to Overton windows every single day. But it had to happen. It just had to happen. And if you look at so many of the things that are happening on the public health side, I mean, one of the criticisms that Bobby will always get, and I always think it's such bullshit, excuse my language, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. It's probably covering, I apologize to everybody who's watching live on Fox News. But hopefully they were able to bleep that out. But anyway, is sometimes there's this attack where people say, well, this or that conclusion is not supported by the science, or this or that conclusion is a conspiracy theory. And science, as practiced in its best form, is that if you disagree with it, then you ought to criticize it, and you ought to argue it against it, but you can't shut down the debate. And that really is, if you look at all of the big public health debates that we've had in this country over the last 20 or 30 years, it doesn't bother me that they disagreed with something that I believed, or disagreed with something you believed, or any of you. It's that they tried to silence the people who were saying things that were outside the Overton window. And as we found out the hard way over the last few years, it was very often the people who were outside the Overton window who were actually right, and all the experts were wrong.
Yeah.
Hans, what do you think of his intellectual political relationship with Maha compared to Donald Trump?
I will say just 3 broad points, and I'll try to make them specific, though. We live in a time where authenticity is going to be the most important currency in political campaigns. That's the first point. Anger is typically authentic. I can fake be angry with my kids when I'm reprimanding them, but for the most time, anger is authentic, and populism is typically fueled by anger. So you take those 3 sort of like foundations or pillars, and he hit all 3 of them there. Now, to your earlier point about talking about continuing resolutions and cloture and whatnot, everyone on this call probably knows what the Overton window is, and has theories on Chesterton's fence or Chesterton's hedge as well. But towards the end there, he was a little wonky. But my main take on that, and my own view, is that we need a commission to look at what we got right and what we got wrong on COVID. I still don't know. I don't know why there isn't a commission. It was clearly a public health failure. A lot of things didn't work, and no one can tell me what we got right, when, and wrong, and just politicized, and I don't even know what to believe. So I'm pro-commission, not Erskine Bowles pro-commission, but pro-commission. But my overwhelming take there is that we just saw a very authentic and angry person, and it seems like that may be what the country wants, or at least the party wants, heading into 2028.
Super well said and interesting. Alex, thoughts on what Hans said?
I think Hans is exactly right. I think that is authenticity. Whether it's genuine, rehearsed, practiced authenticity, or the real thing, it certainly comes across that way. I think he did a fantastic job.
Is he like anybody in politics who you guys have covered or known, in terms of just his sort of overall oeuvre, just like his skills? Who's he like? I'll just to show you my praise. I think he's like Trump in the sense that I can't think of an analog. There's nobody his style just seems unique. I can't even explain why that is. Like what it is.
I would say, Mark, that he's Trump, but he's next gen Trump.
Yeah.
Hans' point, he is much more relatable. He's not the billionaire who can identify with the blue collar people. No, he's blue collar, no collar.
Yeah.
His way up. So and he's got a velvet glove in the iron fist. He goes into interviews and not only holds his ground, but he does it with a smile. He does it with a certain softness. So yeah, he's got some unique gifts.
Mark, was he like Does he remind you at all of 2000 Straight Talk Express McCain, where he knew he'd blunder sometimes, but let it rip?
That strand, that's a great parallel.
I wasn't on the
Lets
bus
it
in
rip.
2000,
For that
but
strand, but he's so much more policy oriented than Senator McCain was. You know, Senator McCain was all rhetoric and strategy and ideas. If the closest to me, and this is high praise, and I'm not saying they're exactly the same. He's a lot like Bill Clinton. He's a lot like Bill Clinton, just so glib on so many things, there's a thing, Hans, you're too young to know this. Sidney Blumenthal, who was a reporter and a friend of the Clintons, he talked about, it's one of the greatest insights of Bill Clinton. He said he's part of the conversation. He's part of the capital T, capital C, where national governors meetings and lunch with E.J. Dionne and going to universities and just this national conversation about ideas and about government and business and that for years Clinton had been part of that conversation and that gave him all these contacts and all these ideas. Vance is like that to me. Like he knows everybody. Like you go to a think tank, they all know him. You go to, whatever. Now Clinton spent more time in politics. So he was going to the bumfuck county, Arkansas and Florida chicken dinner. Vance was more in business, right? But he's been all over. He could go to Park Avenue and he could go to anywhere and talk to people.
Two other questions for you. Jack,
Yeah.
Was he like Jack Kemp on policy? I mean, people loved Jack Kemp on policy. And then another one, and I don't mean to make the inappropriate reference, but everyone always said Gary Hart was a serious intellectual. Again, well before my time, probably before yours.
You know what? Hart is closer because Kemp, in my experience, and I only met him a few times, but I've seen video. Kemp was more like McCain, 80,000 feet. He had some specifics. So did McCain, but he was more about rhetoric than policy. And this guy, he can talk about anything. But the other, what was the other one you said?
Gary Hart.
Gary Hart. That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Hart's a very good one. Hart was the opposite of ebullient. So their manner, their style was not the same. But in terms of thinking about the future, focused on the future, that's a good one. All right, if you want to get in the conversation on any of these topics, please raise your hand. We'll get to you in just a moment. We'd love to have you opportunity to talk to Hans and to Alex. We're ending a little bit early, so please raise your hand now if you want to get in. A word from another sponsor, Cozy Earth, CozyEarth.com. For 40% off, use the code 2way. Black Friday comes early, an opportunity to buy the sheets, the blankets, including the bubble cuddle blanket, and then the joggers, the pants that Sean loves so much. And many of you have already bought and told me how much you love them. And as I've said before, if you're a gentleman and you buy the pants, guaranteed, or your money back. Your spouse will tell you how good you look in them. And all of it's super comfortable. It's viscose made from bamboo, available now. Black Friday comes early, as I said. Use the code 2way, 40% off the whole site. Blankets, towels, shirts, soft, really well made, and available now, 40% off. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code 2way. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. And for the price, you'll be surprised at how luxurious it is, I think, because it's very affordable, particularly with 40% off. Thank you for your attention to that matter. All right, let's go to the community here for questions. I'm trying to get Annalie. Annalie, turn on your video. Let's see. Turn on your video. We'll bring you right in. Huh. One more time. Start the video. No. Not sure what's going on there. All right. We'll bring Ray in. Ray, welcome in. Thank you for being part of 2way. Ray lives in Ohio, ladies and gentlemen. Ray, what's on your mind for Hans and for Alex? Hold on. No, you're unmuted, Ray, but we can't hear you. I don't know if you're not plugged in there. No, we still can't hear you.
That's got to be hello.
There you go. Yes, sir. Now we hear you fine.
That's got to be better. So, I'm here in Ohio. I'm confused by this J.D. Vance thing. I know that he speaks real well. I know that he looks great in a suit. I know his hair is real coiffed, unlike mine. I mean, I need a haircut. That's for damn sure. I don't get why people inside the Beltway love the guy. Now, maybe he is the epitome of a politician, but I can tell you here among the working class people in Ohio, when I ask folks, even Republicans, What do you think of J.D. Vance? One word tends to come out more than other. Phony.
Yeah.
He's not us.
Yeah.
He's too polished.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm on here and I hear people, oh, J.D. Vance, oh, he's so, he's so this, he's so that, and he's a front runner for 2028. It's early, anything can happen. I just don't see it.
Yeah. So great point. And I've been many have called me out for being quite effusive about his skills because that's the thing people are concerned about. And of course, all this stuff with Tucker and Fuentes and his reaction to it have caused those who think he's a phony to renew the charges. And there's a lot of people in the donor class, not just regular people, but also who aren't super fans of his. And it's always going to be in the eye of the beholder. But Alex, are you sympathetic to the point of view that says maybe you and I should be slobbering less over his apparent skills?
Well, I think Ray's right, and I have slobbered less. My take on it, and I do hear this not just from folks in Ohio, Ray, but from folks in Washington, that he is a very ambitious political figure and has a little bit of Gavin Newsom in him. And that also he is not fully formed. He has evolved positions. He now supports a lot of the Trump positions. Now he's strong MAGA, but he's Peter Thiel on one hand and Tucker Carlson, but he's conservative on the other. And when you're vice president, you don't get to finish forming yourself. You have to be the number two. Yes, boss, whatever the boss says. And so it's a tough place for an ambitious, not quite fully formed guy to solidify an identity and an image. And what do you do when you've got your finger to the wind and you want to get that job, at the next opening in 28? You look ambitious, you look political.
Hans.
I'm not maybe we're too I think what I was trying to say that maybe we're too pro or slobbering over Vance to use Mark's terms. I think just in that moment, he had an authentic moment. To use the Bill Clinton example from earlier, though, is that I'm sure that in the 88 and 92, if I were a reporter and I wanted to go down and find someone in Arkansas that said Bill Clinton was a phony, that'd be a pretty easy quote to get.
Well, his nickname was Slick Willie.
So just because the people who know him the best and that feel like that they have some purchase on his political future, that's not necessarily going to be fatal to his presidential or national ambitions. So everyone here could be right? He could be a great national figure and he could be, somewhat presumed to be inauthentic at home. But, I would just imagine 7 of the last 8 national candidates probably felt that way. I'm sure there are people that felt that way about Reagan. But again, if I'm Ohio, Ray, I'll look you up and you'll give me all your sources and I'll get all the credit. Okay.
Yeah.
How about that?
It's interesting because he said Trump was the Republican Party's Hitler not that long ago. And people react to him, Ray, all over the way you say. They just, and including some very influential people in the party, but in the White House, in the administration, in the Senate, amongst his staff, he's beloved. And my limited time with him, and observing his wife can usually tell somebody about what their spouse is like. He's a lovely guy. He just his demeanor, his genuine interest in people, his relationship with Charlie Kirk, for instance, I find heartbreaking and touching. So I'm not arguing for either side because I hear both. I just find it a bit of a puzzle because Bill Clinton, for instance, and who Hans correctly pointed out, a lot of people said he was slick. He didn't have that many friends. He really didn't. And all these friends from his childhood who came out in 92, he barely spent any time with them. Now, I'm exaggerating. He had some friends, but not like Vance. Vance has a ton of friends, and they don't think he's a phony at all. I've got friends who I would tell you privately, yeah, they're kind of phony. They don't say that about him. They really seem to like him. So to me, it's a bit of a puzzle how the guy could be so well liked by the people around him and come across to me, and particularly again with his wife, as just super charming, and yet the persistent word from people in Ohio, from some people in the donor community, is that he's a phony. I've never heard a politician say he's a phony? Not one.
So I'm going to mix metaphors here, so everyone be on alert. But if presidential campaigns are MRIs of your souls, like we'll figure this out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll figure like if there is
Totally.
an authenticity problem there, and like Alex has seen dozens, if not hundreds, of candidates that come through that I'm sure your phony detector, Alex, is better than all of ours because we just have to write one story on it. You've got to actually get them across the line and convince the voters. So I don't know. What does your phony meter tell you, Alex?
Phony meter tells me that he has not matured as a political figure yet because he's got a party that's divided and he's trying to please all sides.
Yeah.
And but he will, right now by far he's the front runner, and if he seeks that nomination and gets it, then he'll bring the party together. Right now he wouldn't have a problem, but compare him to Marco Rubio, who in the public sphere has matured, got his ass whooped in 2016, and now looks like he doesn't give a damn about politics. He's going to do what's right. That comparison does not work to J.D. Vance's advantage at the moment.
Yeah. Rubio,
Mark,
when in Florida, was called a phony, including by Charlie Crist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mark, if you can tell, if you just real quick, if you can tell a lot about a man, about who he marries, I see a wedding ring on Alex's fingers. What sort of wife lets you smoke a cigar in your man cave? I mean, you clearly made
very
some,
kind, very kind woman.
A girl from North Carolina, tobacco country.
Yeah. Ray, thank you. Ray, thank you. I got to get a quick ad in real quick, guys. Stand by. CB Distillery, 25% off there. Use the code two-way, cbdistillery.com. Nights when you can't sleep, looking to relax. CB Distillery products, they've worked for over 2 million people, and perhaps they'd work for you. Give them a try. Clean ingredients, no fillers, just premium CBD. Imagine waking up feeling relaxed and refreshed. Opportunity to use products that, again, have worked for over 2 million people. Right now, save 25% off your entire order. Visit cbdistillery.com. Use the promo code two-way, again, cbdistillery.com. This is for folks if pain after exercise, say, or say you're having trouble sleeping, or maybe your mood and your focus are a little bit off. This is a product that has worked for so many. You may want to give it a try. Again, at a discount, go to cbdistillery.com. See if they'll make a difference for you. 25% off your entire order, cbdistillery.com. Promo code two-way, again, cbdistillery.com. As I said, we got to end a little bit early. So, guys, just lastly from you, the president is now dealing with the prospect of the Epstein thing, and he's dealing with the prospect that he's about to sign into law the continuing resolution to open the government back up. Which will be the lead for the morning shows tomorrow, the cable morning shows and the network morning shows? Which of those two stories will be the lead, the Epstein story or the government opening back up? Alex, which will lead more places?
Car wrecks, Epstein.
Okay. Hans?
Government opening up, travel shutdown, snarls stopping. Like they'll put Tom Costello will be at Reagan, and Thanksgiving. But I'm probably wrong.
Friendly wager could be either. Grateful to you both, Alex and for Hans. Thank you both for being here. Love having you on, and thank you all for being part of it again tomorrow night. Join me regular time, 6 p.m. Eastern time for two-way tonight, and then stay with me 7 to 7:30. Your holiday shopping needs. Evaporating in air, Fairway and Green. You can buy two-way merch if you'd like. That makes a good gift, but also the regular stuff, or they'll work with you to get your logo, company logo, on quality merchandise like this to give to your clients and customers and your employees or members of the two-way community, however you'd like to dole it out. So we'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow with Sean and Dan, and then tomorrow night. Thank you all. Again, thanks to Alex and to Hans. Have a good evening.